Brexit. Brexit means Brexit, but what does Brexit mean?
Jacob, hello, it's Laura Kunsberg here.
Oh, hello, good evening. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good, very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you for squeezing us in. I know it's a busy evening for you.
Well, one or two things on, but always a pleasure to talk to you.
Tonight, you're using some rather dramatic language. You're accusing our negotiators of being cowed by the EU. You're telling them off and saying this is no way to behave.
Well, I think in stage one, we allowed the EU to set out the terms of discussions and assumed that they were holy writ. And I'm very concerned that we don't make the same mistake again with the EU setting out its terms for the implementation period.
What is it that gives you such a cause for concern? I mean, you've said that ministers risk missing out on the benefits of Brexit. You're warning voters didn't choose the management of decline. I mean, a little bit more than a gentle worry on the sidelines.
Well, I think what the Prime Minister set out in her Lancaster House speech and in the Conservative Party manifesto is a very good deal for the United Kingdom, and that's what we should be aiming for. So I'm fully supporting the Prime Minister's position. There has been some discussion recently that we would try to stay in a customs union and seek a high level of regulatory alignment. And the Chancellor has reiterated that today. That is not in line with the Lancaster House speech, nor is it in line with the Conservative Party manifesto. And therefore my aim is to support the Prime Minister against naysayers.
But, Mr Rees-Mogg, you are keen to support the Prime Minister's position as it was laid out a year ago in Lancaster House. Now, many other people in the Tory party might consider that position has shifted a bit. She is now being rather more pragmatic. But it sounds like you think she's simply backsliding.
No, I don't think the Prime Minister's backsliding. I think she is a figure of great consistency and backbone, and that's what I support. I think you use the word pragmatic to move away from Lancaster House. That wouldn't be the word I would choose. I think the pragmatic answer is to get a really good deal out of Brexit that allows us the benefits of free trade, allows food, clothing and footwear, particularly beneficial to the poorest in society, those who Mrs May most wants to help, as she said on the steps of Downing Street. I support all of that. So my aim and the aim of the European Research Group, which I chair, is to back official government policy and to regret the efforts by some to undermine it.
You say, though, that you have confidence in her, and you still agree with the position that she has laid out in January. But if she still believes that position, why are you worried? I mean, are you worried that she has changed her mind, or that she perhaps isn't strong enough to be able to stick to those points?
No, but I think the people that you support often find it helpful to have support enunciated and made clear, because otherwise you allow the people who are opponents of the Prime Minister to make all the running and the fair weather friends to undermine her position. So what I'm trying to do is to give evidence for the widespread support there is for the Prime Minister's position, not just from me and from Conservative MPs, but actually across the country at large.
Isn't it the case, Jacob Rees-Mogg, what you're really trying to do is say to the Prime Minister, unless you go with the Brexiteers' version of what should happen next, how these negotiations should unfold, you will be extremely unhappy and you may well even withdraw your support for her?
Well, no, my support for the Prime Minister as leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister is unconditional. I think she is an excellent Prime Minister who deserves our support. I obviously want, as she wants, to get the best deal for Brexit, and my aim is to help her in every way I can to achieve that. But I'm not making any threats about withdrawing support or things of that kind.
But if you are using the kind of language you're using tonight, accusing ministers of taking a risk with Brexit, of letting voters down, of talking about managed decline, of being cowed by the European Union. Now, it's your belief the government under her leadership allowed that to happen in phase one. You're very clear that you absolutely don't want that to happen in phase two. So what will you do if there isn't what you're calling for, a fundamental change of tone?
We've got bills going through Parliament, and they will have to be discussed and debated, but there will be a bill to implement any deal that is done. And so we'll have to look at that when things come before us. But there's no reason to suppose that the government won't stick to its original policy.
Well, if there isn't reason to suppose that, Jacob Rees-Mogg, then why are you making such a dramatic intervention? I mean, isn't the point you're saying they might do?
What it mustn't do, I was about to say, is to allow this time the EU's initial negotiating guidelines to be seen as Holy Writ. And the reason I think that happened the first time is that the government was inevitably weakened by the general election result and therefore agreed something that it wouldn't otherwise have done. And so I just want to try and make sure that unfortunate circumstance does not recur.
So you, hand on heart, are trying to be helpful here by using this kind of language while the Prime Minister's trying to show a polished front in Davos to the rest of the world, the night before the Brexit Secretary is trying to set out the government's new thinking on this next phase.
Well, isn't it better that I should do it the night before and therefore find when Mr Davis speaks that there's a high degree of alignment between backbench Tory MPs and their leaders?
Jacob Rees-Mogg, you're surely not calling for a high level of alignment. Surely our followers of all of Brexit.
Between backbenchers and the front bench of the Conservative Party is a worthy objective.
Just to go back one moment, you rather cryptically there mentioned bills that were coming forward. It sounded to me a little bit like if ministers don't adopt more of your kind of tone on Brexit, you and your colleagues on the Brexit supporting part of the Tory backbenches might see fit to tinker with legislation in a way that ministers might not rather be too pleased about. Would you rule that out? So far there's been a remarkable degree of loyalty from the Brexit backers.
Well, look, I wasn't too distressed that Dominic Grieve made the case against Henry VIII's powers. I believe that the exercise of Brexit is about restoring powers to Parliament, not to the executive. Clauses 30 and 31 of the Customs Bill would allow us to enter a customs union by order in council. That is a Henry VIII clause of stratospheric proportions. And I think I would hope that the government would revisit that. So
interestingly, that, of course, is Philip Hammond's bill rather than David Davis's bill. It sounds to me like you are asking the government to think again about that particular bit of the bill. Can I just ask you briefly, you've already called Philip Hammond a naysayer. When tonight you say that ministers risk missing out the benefits of Brexit, which ministers are you talking about?
I don't think I specifically said Philip Hammond is a naysayer. I think you drew that conclusion from what I said.
Probably, I think, not incorrectly. It was a rather strong implication.
You're very wise and very good at finding implications in things, so I won't quibble.
That's so refreshing.
I think there is a problem with the Treasury. The Treasury, as an institution, has been humiliated by the inaccuracy of its forecasts prior to Brexit, when it made absurd claims about what was going to happen purely on the vote to leave. Forget what might happen once we had left. And the humiliation of the institution has made it a weak institution and an angry institution trying to claw back its reputation by doubling down. And I think there is a problem with that. And I think there is a further problem that there appears to be, though you will know this better than I do, because the lobby is better informed on this than I am, there is a degree of disunity between numbers 10 and 11 Downing Street, and that is not a good position to be in. I would like to see unity between those two establishments, and I would like to see the Treasury restore its reputation by being positive rather than dwelling on its past failures.
Jacob, it's Adam in Brussels diving in. Bizarrely, your mobile phone sounds a bit like a gramophone from here, which is the most Rees-Mogg thing I can actually imagine. Just be honest. I mean,
that's very unfair. It's actually on a very modern iPhone. So
is it an iPhone 10? Is it an iPhone 10?
It's not a 10. I think it's the one before.
Okay. Who has an iPhone 10, Adam? I don't know anything.
Can you do those animated emojis? We'll ask that another day. Anyway, I divert. Basically, I mean, just come out with it. You think Theresa May should sack Philip Hammond, don't you? That's how the Treasury would be restored, wouldn't it?
No, I wouldn't go that far because I don't think it's. I don't think it would be polite for me to say that. But I think it's really important that the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, the First and Second Lords of the Treasury, need to have a unity of purpose And the bigger responsibility for that is with the Chancellor rather than with the Prime Minister.
Okay, now, we love a quiz on this programme, so I just wanted to do a quick...
No.
You're going to love this, because this is a transition negotiating directives quiz, where I'm going to read you...
I am not taking part in this, can I just be clear?
Okay, I'm going to... Don't worry, there's no prizes and no score at the end. I just want to... Basically, it's a way of getting your reaction to individual bits of the Holy Writ, as you might call it, of the EU 27's blueprint for the transition negotiations. So I'll read you a bit and then you just give me your instant reaction. It's like word association. So paragraph 12. The Union acquis, so basically all EU law, should apply to in the United Kingdom as if it was a member state during the transition. Any changes to the acquis should automatically apply to and in the UK during the transition period. Automatically apply. What do you think?
No.
No way. Okay.
Automatically apply means we're the vassal state, and that we would be a colony of the European Union. No democratic free nation can accept foreign laws imposed on it when it has no say at all.
Okay.
That would be monstrous.
So big cross next to paragraph 12. Paragraph 13. Blah, 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 blah. This means in particular that the direct effect and primacy of union law should be preserved in the UK during the transition.
No. The direct effect is a real problem. I would accept the ECJ having the same status as the European Court of Human Rights, and that we would, in the usual course of events in the interim period, implement its decisions, but that we would not be obliged to with direct effect.
So no direct effect or primacy. Right. Paragraph 15, we've discussed this already, though. Transitional arrangements will require the United Kingdom's continued participation in the customs union and the single market with all four freedoms.
All four freedoms? No. We should not tolerate freedom of movement continuing a day after we've left.
OK, so that's paragraph 15's got a big cross next to it. Now, paragraph 17. In relation to the application of the Union acquis to the UK, the withdrawal agreement should therefore, during the transition period, preserve the full competencies of the Union institutions, in particular, the full jurisdiction of the Court of Justice of the European Union.
You're loving this, Adam, aren't you?
No, that's the same answer as I gave on the direct effect of EU law. That it should be for us to implement its decisions if we want to, which we probably would in an interim period.
OK, and can I try one final one? We are taking two completely interconnected and aligned economies with high levels of trade between them and selectively moving them, hopefully, very modestly apart.
The whole opportunity for us is to leave the sclerotic, slow-growth European Union and look to the wider world. I'm afraid that line is a line of managing decline, not of trying to achieve the benefits of freedom from being outside the European Union. And we want to get the benefits of cheaper food, clothing and footwear, particularly to help the poorest in our society. And I can't think who would have said such a thing.
I think, Jacob Rees-Mogg, you might have seen through my cunning trap. That was, of course, the line from the Chancellor's speech this afternoon. Managing decline, says Jacob Rees-Mogg.
I don't think his line is in accordance with the Lancaster House speech or with the Conservative Party manifesto, which I was elected on in Milton Somerset.
But you still think he should carry on as Chancellor?
As long as the Prime Minister has confidence in him, yes, that's the constitutional position.
And a quick last question, if I may, Jacob. It's Chris Mason here. You are well known for pushing back the frontiers of new media with your Instagramming during the election campaign and all of that. Tell us a bit about Moggcast, because, you know, this podcasting world is getting mighty competitive and mighty crowded, and you're one of the latest additions to the battle.
Well, Paul Goodman asked me to do it, and I've known Paul for a long time, and by and large, when he asks me to do something, I say yes. So
former Conservative MP, guy who runs Conservative Home.
That's right, and so that's why I'm doing it. I wouldn't claim to be an expert in new media at all. Everything that goes on Instagram and so on is luck rather than judgment in my case.
Well, we're very grateful to you coming on our humble podcast this afternoon,
Indeed.
Jacob. Thank you so much.
Great pleasure.
Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you very much.
We'll all come on Moggcast next week.
Oh, yeah,
Bye.
you two are just after an invite.
We will make America great again.